Day, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's epic disaster at the Sundance Film Festival, where they can't even fill one movie theatre, where they cannot even give an interview without snapping at the reporter and looking like an absolute cow, and where the hypocrisy reeks and the weasel words, the famous Meghan Markle word salad, cannot get around it. So we're going to analyse all of these absolutely mortifying scenes with Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network today. But first, let me show you the moment where Meghan is clearly horrified to be asked about the daughter who she has decided to pimp out on social media virtually every other weekend. Watch.
A young daughter. She's maybe a little bit too young for Scouts at this point. Do you want Lilibet to be part of Girl Scout?
It's interesting. I think we'll continue to explore whatever feels right. But Alyssa's also a mom of a daughter.
As Nancy Sidley put it, I think accurately, Meghan gets extremely uncomfortable, in my opinion, whenever asked about the kids. So she's proven the only time she will give information is when you're paying her. While she couldn't be more obvious, no information for free people. And then how about the great dichotomy of the fact that we have Prince Harry in the High Court in the UK saying, goodness me, my life has been destroyed by the fact that people want to write articles about me. And then literally hours later, turning up on a red carpet where to begin with, and this is what's so mortifying. Oh my God. In fact, let's watch along and I'll commentate as we go along. Meghan has basically initially had Harry standing to the side of the room. There you can see him. He's just watching along with Meghan until he gets the sign. Like a little wounded dog, a little puppy dog who's told what to do by his owner. She's loving all of this without Harry, of course. That's the director of the movie. And then you'll see Harry, he's still watching on his own. What am I doing here? What is my role in life? But at least I've covered up my bald spot a little bit more than I did in court. And then you'll see Meghan, there comes the sign. There you're allowed to come in, Harry. Come in and do your bit. Pretend that you like the director. Give her a hug. And I thought, wow, the optics of that, especially given, by the way, that they are meant to be equal partners in this project. Because I should point out, by the way, in case you hadn't missed it, the reason they're at the Sundance Film Festival is because these two are having to sell their movie, Cookie Queens, which Netflix chose not to pick up as part of their first look deal. So I thought, that was very telling on the red carpet. Huge awkwardness. Meghan's obviously loving it. Harry, miserable as anything. And as Meghan's mole put it, wasn't Harry complaining in a British court about media intrusion and costing British taxpayers multi-millions? And here he is, after not seeing his own phantom hostage spawn for weeks, posing for the media, that he complains about. And I want to take a look at this other video, which shows them on the red carpet, because I think for me, it had the ick factor because Meghan had to pretend to give a damn about these children. I don't think she does, actually, but there's all of the fake hugs. There's all of the faux laughter as she says, oh, come on out. You see, she is very much in charge of what's going on during this red carpet appearance. And these are the young children. Now, again, I will point out the hypocrisy. Others won't. These are the young children who Meghan thinks is completely appropriate. I mean, some of them are about 12 years old. Completely appropriate to put on a red carpet, to have People magazine plaster all over their Instagram, while at the same time, she launches this campaign about keeping children off social media. I don't think it adds up. Then we get inside the auditorium, which, by the way, and we will come to this, remains pretty much empty, which is absolutely damning, because trust me, I've been to loads of these big film festivals. If you've got royalty at that film festival, doesn't matter what time of day it is, that auditorium is sold out. Now, in Meghan's case, it wasn't. That's mortifying in itself. But then she decides to do something that no star does. It is not the done thing if you are in the world of lovey movie mayhem. And for Meghan, she wants to be in the world of lovey movie mayhem, so really she should be doing and following the protocol, which is, it doesn't matter how big you are as a star. It doesn't matter if you're Brad Pitt. It doesn't matter if you're George Clooney. It doesn't matter if you're Jennifer Lawrence. You do not speak at a film festival before the director of the movie. That is always how it's worked. That is always the tradition. But of course, because it is Meghan and she views herself as royalty, introduced on stage, of course, as Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex, all protocol is thrown out the window and she decides to speak before the director. Let's watch this to see this woman.
Our director, I want to invite a very special guest on stage. Can you please join me in welcoming Meghan, Duchess of Sussex?
So use of the title, and she makes the point that it's before the director, and Meghan comes out. What an outfit, by the way. Why did she not dress up? And here comes the word salad. Prepare for it.
Thank you so much for being here bright and early. I know some of you probably had late nights last night, so extra thanks for the effort.
Pointing out that there are empty seats.
Coffee can't help. Look, my husband and I and Archwell Productions, we are so proud and privileged to be able to support and uplift Cookie Queens. This film, yes, is probably the cutest at the festival, but I'm also going to go out on a limb and say it is one of the most powerful and meaningful depictions of something that is an American tradition and rooted in nostalgia.
She wasn't happy with the film being described as cute.
From the incredible creative vision of Alyssa to show something modernized about the girlhood experience and all the layers of complexity that come with that. So yes, it's cute, and yes, these young ladies are fantastic and adorable, but they are also layered, beautiful girls who are about to become very strong leaders and young women. So thank you for supporting that.
And she's like, yes, you must clap. See the nod? Clap me.
A huge thanks to our team at Archwell Productions, Chanel, Wesley, Q, we love you guys. Thank you so much for everything.
Now this is weird.
Josh
She's
Braun,
acting as if she's won an award.
And then of course the producers.
She thinks this is an Oscar speech. Meghan is at this festival to try and sell the movie.
With all of the hundreds of hours of trusted fly-on-the-wall material that they were able to capture with these families that let them in and allowed them to show and share their lives and their loves. I think the editorial in this that you'll see is also something pretty outstanding. But that is all testament to the talent and expertise of the director, Alyssa Namias, who is here today, and I'm so excited to introduce her to you. Please give her a big round of applause.
Okay, so finally Meghan then allows the director to come on stage. Now I should point out, by the way, in case you don't know this, all of the movie was made before Meghan was involved. None of it was to do with her at all. They've been involved for 2 years trying to sell this damn thing. Netflix didn't want it. That is why they are at Sundance, trying to pimp out the movie, and it is not working. But Meghan's reaction to the director's speech, well, look, let's just watch together because it's very odd. She hates someone else being in the spotlight.
Your genuine passion for Cookie Queens. You, Prince Harry, Chanel Peisnick, and your whole team at Archwell have understood my vision for this film from the moment I first shared it with you. And I'm grateful for your unwavering trust in me as an artist and your belief in the power of our film story to connect with audiences around the world.
Shaking. And see, there she comes out, arms folded, unimpressed that she's not centre stage, I would argue. By the way, could she not even press the trousers? I mean, you know I'm not a fashion guy, but...
Thank you to Kim Butani, Eugene Hernandez, and all of the Sundance Film Festival programming team, the Institute staff, and volunteers. Being back at Sundance this year for the world premiere of Cookie Queens is a dream come true. Cookie Queens took flight thanks to the Sundance Catalyst program led by our champions there, Julia Caruso, Monique Avila, Julia Nelson.
This is not a woman who uplifts other women.
Catalyst investor community. Yeah.
That is not a woman uplifting other women, let me tell you. Then, of course, we get the totally predictable Instagram story, which Meghan thinks shows how this was a great triumph. What I'm looking for, though, is a buyer. Did anyone want to buy this movie? Did any streaming service come in and say, we're going to pay you a load of money? Did any distributor say, we want to take this internationally? Because I've seen none of that. Then you get the awkwardness about the fact that they didn't even sell out. This is revealed by Johnny Oleksinski, who is the film critic for the New York Post, who revealed the Sussexes couldn't sell out Sundance. Although Prince Harry and Meghan Markle attended the Park City, Utah bowl of the new documentary they produced, Cookie Queens, there were plenty of open seats at the Eccles Theatre. As the film began, roughly 150 unoccupied spots remained on the balcony. It wasn't even close to being a sellout. Plus some scattered chairs on the ground. That number ultimately tightened to about 60 as lucky waitlisters slowly filled empty places reserved for high-paying pass holders. The coveted express badge costs $6,900, who mostly passed on the visiting royals. Now, that matters, of course, because the people with the expensive passes, with the $6,900 passes, are the people who are going to be able to afford to buy and distribute this movie. He went on in the same theatre the night before at the mobbed premiere of Olivia Wilde's The Invite, starring Seth Rogen, Penelope Cruz, and Edward Norton. Staff had to turn away about 100 actual ticket holders as seats there are not assigned. Even a much less glamorous movie called Buddy with Christian Milotti and Topher Grace left 40 out in the cold at Library Centre at midnight on a Thursday. And Stephanie Sidley made the point, this whole Sundance production is not the flex Harry and Meghan think it is. If Netflix were thrilled, if their brand were booming, if their audience demand were growing, they wouldn't need Sundance to validate them. So let me bring in Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network now. Brittany, a huge amount to pick up on here. But again, what we see is a disaster appearance. Weird speech, weird uncomfortable moment on the red carpet, bristling about Lily, weird interaction between Meghan and Prince Harry, who is left on the side as if he is just a bit part player in all of this. And then the fact that they could not even get the people to show up.
I mean, it's such a disaster, Dan. It really is. And of course, sort of the biggest elephant in the room is, like you said, that Netflix didn't buy this project. That's huge because if they've been in development for 2 years, Netflix would have been well aware of this film and passed. That tells you that it's not really all that great and not something they're really interested in. And in the grand scheme of Hollywood, Netflix is king. Netflix is the biggest streaming service. They have the most money to invest. And so that they are not all that interested in this is just absolutely astounding, but also shows that Harry and Meghan have a dismal track record when it comes to their documentaries. They do not do well. We've had this just be explored with Love Meghan. And then I did double check because they had been producers on, I think it was called The Mikasa Kids or something like that. That didn't even chart at all in the top 7,000 titles from Netflix in the last what we watched. Everything Harry and Meghan is attached to is middling at best. It doesn't do well, especially their nonfiction series. And I think broadly, Netflix is done with anything nonfiction related to them. I think they'll give them some pass on fiction titles. But for right now, Harry and Meghan, they can't sell seats. Meghan can't sell product. They can't sell. People watch them to watch the train wreck. They're not actually invested in Harry and Meghan, except for a very small few loud minority group of people. Everybody else is sort of done with them.
And Brittany, that speech, as you posted, I don't think Meghan Markle ever saw a microphone she didn't want. I imagine she's sharing about the one weekend she spent in the Girl Scouts, spinning into some dramatic tale about resilience, feminism, entrepreneurship, etc. Very typical and very empty. Now, Brittany, I found that speech super weird because to me, as someone who has read how this woman reacts to things, it was obvious that she wasn't happy with the fact that this movie had been described as cute. She didn't like that. Like, for her, this movie obviously has to represent some form of feminism.
It does. She wants everything to have depth and have this great meaning and everything. And sometimes that's just not the case. And honestly, probably the best way to sell the film is as it's cute. It shows cute girls. They are kind of growing up in girlhood, these sorts of things, and going through the Girl Scouts. But it's very weird and odd that on the red carpet, obviously, and through this film, Meghan is promoting the Girl Scouts. And yet she won't commit to her own daughter being in the Girl Scouts, which goes to show and prove, I think, that all this gobbledygook she likes to share about, the importance of the Girl Scouts and what it teaches you and everything is just complete nonsense because she obviously just doesn't really care. And I'm still confused as what she means about when she said, I hope you like it, the editorial or something about the movie. And I'm like, editorial? What do you mean by editorial? Maybe I'm just not well versed in the minutia of like film reviewing or whatever, but I didn't know what she meant by editorial because I think news and editorial. But I don't think Meghan really knows anything about the film industry, to be quite honest. She's attempting to make it. It's not going well. And everything she does has to be self-referential, which means that she can't evaluate whether a project is good simply based on its own merits. She promoted it as reflecting her and her experience, which is very minimal. And so when she's asked personal questions about it, she can't really answer. And when it comes to selling this movie, she doesn't really have the ability to sell it because she was only a Girl Scout for 5 seconds. And so this whole thing is an absolute train wreck. And she and Harry continue to prove why they haven't made it in Hollywood. She doesn't have a good eye, Meghan. Harry should just be in parentheses at this point because he's pretty much useless in this industry. And they just can't pick good projects. And this is another example of how they always pick things that are good for Meghan, not actually good projects. Like there's a big difference there.
100%. But Brittany, I mean, there are certain rules that you follow if you're playing this game. And Meghan had to insert herself before the director. And that's just not the dumb thing when you're selling a movie. Like, yes, of course she's more famous, but very often, Brittany, the stars or the executive producer of a movie are more famous than the director. I'll give you the example of Hamnet, right, which is one of the films going for the Oscars this year. And Chloe Zhao is the director. Steven Spielberg is one of the executive producers. But you would never see Steven Spielberg introducing the film on stage at a festival ahead of the director because it's just not the done thing. But of course, Meghan can't help herself. Now, of course, if she wanted to speak, she could have spoken after the director because then she would be following protocol, film festival protocol. And look, people might say that type of thing is ridiculous, but I think it just shows you how for Meghan, she doesn't give a damn. It has to be her first, at the forefront and at the centre of everything.
The moment Meghan Markle is asked about Girl Scouts should have been a soft, easy win. Instead, it turns into an awkward verbal maze, classic Meghan Markle word salad. What stands out isn't what she says, but what she doesn't. For someone who constantly uses motherhood as part of her public brand, she suddenly freezes when asked about her own daughter. The hesitation feels calculated, as if access to her children is only available when there's a contract involved. This reinforces a long-standing criticism: privacy for free, access for pay. Here's where the contradiction becomes impossible to ignore. Prince Harry is in a UK courtroom claiming the media has destroyed his life, and hours later, he's smiling on a red carpet, posing for cameras, attending a film festival designed entirely around publicity. You cannot argue media intrusion while actively courting the media. That isn't victimhood, that's selective outrage. The body language tells its own story. Harry is physically placed off to the side, waiting for Meghan's signal like a background extra. When he's finally allowed to step forward, it feels staged, awkward, and painfully revealing. If this project was truly an equal partnership, why does he look like an accessory? Why does Meghan command the space while Harry looks lost? The optics scream imbalance, and not the empowering kind. On the red carpet, Meghan performs warmth, hugging children, directing movement, orchestrating moments. But it doesn't feel organic. It feels managed. The irony is brutal. These same children are deemed safe for red carpet exposure and magazine coverage, while Meghan simultaneously campaigns against children appearing on social media. You can't argue both sides, and viewers notice. This is where things turn genuinely damning. At a major festival like Sundance, royalty alone should guarantee a packed room. Instead, the theatre is visibly empty. Hundreds of seats remain unfilled, including seats reserved for high-paying industry insiders. That's not bad luck. That's lack of demand. Hollywood doesn't care about titles. It cares about bankability. Then comes the unthinkable move. Meghan Markle speaks before the director. This simply isn't done, not by A-listers, not by producers, not even by Hollywood royalty like Spielberg. But Meghan ignores protocol, stepping forward under her royal title and delivering what feels more like an acceptance speech than an introduction. This isn't confidence. It's entitlement. The speech itself is classic Meghan, long, self-referential, filled with vague empowerment language and zero substance. She praises herself. She praises her brand. She positions herself as the emotional center of a project she didn't create. And then, the nod for applause. A subtle but unmistakable command, clap now. When the director finally speaks, Meghan's body language changes instantly. Arms folded. Expression tight. Attention drifting. This is not a woman uplifting another woman, despite constantly preaching exactly that.
And it also seems like Meghan really does think that if she's first and foremost, and again, she's made this project quite personal in how she's promoted it, talking about her experience in the Girl Scouts. Again, very, very minimal. It looks like she did it for maybe a couple of months to a year, and that was it. She has made it so personal. And so she's really had this personal angle on it and is thinking that if she gets herself out in front of this, the project will sell. But again, we've seen endlessly at this point that Meghan Markle does not sell. She can't convert customers. And so for her to go up there, she definitely seems like she is going outside of the norm just because, oh, I'm a duchess. And I'm sorry, but aren't her and Harry producers on this? Why isn't he up there? Of course, it's because it's a female-led, female-centric product, and Meghan is obsessed with that notion. Everything has to be about her and Lily. Archie and Harry just don't even seem to comply or seem to be important to her in this aspect. Everything seems to be about her and how it reflects on Lily as well. And so, yeah, she is more than willing to barge up there on stage, grab any microphone. I mean, Meghan's greatest love affair is a microphone. And so she is more than willing to go up there and give let's say, her prep
Yes.
Oscar speech because she thinks she's a great achiever there when it comes to cinema. And she is just not.
My husband and I. It is so telling, isn't it, that line? A couple of smaller notes on this, Brittany, from Queer Lips of Truth. This year begins with fashion failures by Meghan Markle. Her failures are starting to show on her. Lots of people saying this was not a good look. And as ever, we have very creased trousers. Brittany, I know you're a bit of a fashion doyen. Did you pick up on that?
I did. And I also noticed her pants were too long, especially in the second day. The pants were over the shoes and kind of pooling because they were a bit too long. And of course, she has enough money to get her jeans tailored to her. And that would be preferable because you actually look a bit better. And then she shows up in this horrid coat that looks awful, makes her look pregnant. It's huge. It just doesn't even fit well. And then her grand outfit after that, she takes it off. Just has a crew neck sweater on tucked into a pair of jeans. And it's like, there is absolutely nothing stylish or interesting about that outfit. That's about what I wore in Denmark. I chose crew neck sweaters and jeans just to go out in the day to day. And so Meghan could have definitely put a little bit more effort into her outfit there, but in some ways, like, she cares and she doesn't, because she wants this product to sell. She wants to be the center of attention, but she also doesn't care enough to, I think, actually dress the part. And sometimes selling things is all about dressing the part. And I think Meghan had a pretty epic failure there.
And then Harry's hair. Where did it all come from? Brittany, look at this from Meghan's mole. I think it's a fair point, actually. Where did all that hair come from, Harry? We recently saw the bald-ass top with wispy pubes in court. So do you think he's used something? I mean, there are things you can put in, like sort of powder to thicken the top of your hair.
I mean, I think he definitely could have done that, Dan, but also as well, like, in the light of, let's say, an outdoor light, because what we also saw, Harry was walking outdoors in the court, so you could see the back of his head, because actually the back of his head is the worst. He has kind of a thicker wisp up front, which he kind of can maneuver to make his hair look a little bit thicker. It's really the back of his head when he turns around where it's really like, oh, that's bad. And so he definitely could have maybe sprayed something in to make it look like a smidge thicker. But, you can't hide from the actual cameras, Harry. So, yes, maybe if he looks straight at the camera, you can't see how bad the balding is. Maybe the light was kind to him in this particular instance, but you can't avoid it. And he has had plenty of time to get hair plugs if he wanted to. But for him to complain at all about baldness or his brother's baldness, like, come on now. You're getting pretty bad there, Prince Harry.
Now, Brittany, of course, we knew that there was going to be some type of leak to the Daily Telegraph about Harry's security. This is what happens now. And we knew that it would come from Montecito. And sure enough, on Sunday, look at this. Prince Harry's stalker sat meters behind him at High Court trial. Now, this article is from Victoria Ward, who is the Deputy Royal Editor. She's the person who gets all of the leaks directly from Prince Harry's team in Montecito. And I think this article has been specifically designed to try and pressure Ravik. We've seen Charlotte Griffiths for the Mail on Sunday doing similar things, pressure Ravik into giving Prince Harry security. Now, I would argue it actually does the total opposite, even though Harry thinks it's clever, because, of course, if the stalker were allowed so close to him in court, it means that she does not provide a genuine security threat. But let me just take you through the reporting here. The Duke of Sussex's stalker sat a stone's throw from him on 2 occasions at the High Court last week, the Telegraph can reveal. Prince Harry was in court for the opening of his privacy trial against the publisher of the Daily Mail and gave evidence 2 days later. It can now be revealed that the known stalker, who is understood may be suffering from mental health issues, as I've always said, you'd have to have mental health issues to follow Prince Harry around the world, attended the hearing on 2 of the 4 days the Duke was in court, taking a seat in the public gallery a few metres behind him. On both occasions, the woman, who was on a list of known fixated individuals drawn up by a private intelligence company for the Duke, was immediately noticed by his private security team, who alerted court security staff. So can I just say, by the way, how lovely that if you're a fan of Prince Harry, he decides to put you on a fixated individuals list. But a source close to the Duke said there is nothing they could do. They are not the police. It's a public building and she has a right to be there. He is obviously always worried about his security situation. It's not ideal. Well, look, let me just tell you for 1 second, Brittany, I have attended many a trial at the High Court. And for anyone to enter, certainly a member of the public, but anyone to enter that building, including, by the way, the judges, the KCs, there is airport security, okay? So that woman was clearly not armed. She posed no danger. The courtroom was filled with security guards, but she didn't have a weapon. So the most she could have done was fling herself at Harry. But by the way, there's never been any understanding that she would do that. And I think Prince and Princess of Wales fan got it right by saying Prince Harry arranged a couple of incidents with this Sussex squad member just to try and get his security back. I mean, we don't know for sure it is this woman. There has been some suggestion it could be. I've sent this and many other photos and articles to Ravik, and Samantha Markle replied saying, nothing says cheesy like taking selfies with one's stalker. Brittany, I'm sorry, I don't think, again, this is the flex that Prince Harry believes it is. Because really, it's just a fan. It's just a female fan. There's not been any reports of the fact that she has lunged at Harry, that she is armed in any way. And let's be honest, you probably are a little bit weird if you're traveling all over the world. But this happens with tons of celebrities, right? It's very different to a terror threat or some type of actual threat on his life.
Right. And Dan, of course, we always want to say that, always hope that Harry remains safe and that
Totally.
if something serious comes up, then obviously it would be addressed. But the thing is that every time Harry enters the UK, he can actually call and let them know his travel plans. They will evaluate the security risk, the Met Police, and they will decide whether or not he needs public funded security in that instance. And they decided here, no. And I'm sure her name is on a list somewhere that they have given the government, and the government's looked into her and gone, well, she just seems like a fan. And of course, there are fan situations that can turn dangerous, but those are in the extreme minorities. But there are people who will follow a celebrity around, whether that is, let's say, around during the, I'm going to pull something random out, the Wicked tour or something. There are probably people who went to every single premiere who are just big, big fans. And that is simply a reality of having some fame. And that's going to be Harry now. And so until there's an obvious example of where this woman is a threat, I don't think this is a flex, obviously, as you said, that Harry thinks this is, because she just comes across as an Uber fan. The government seems to think the same thing, or at least the security forces seem to think the same thing. And then Harry and Meghan have also cultivated an extreme fan base that would be more likely to, let's say, obsessively follow them around the world. And Harry and Meghan seem to want that, but then don't want it, or are utilizing that extreme fan base for their own benefit. And that's just pretty twisted, I have to say.
It's really twisted. It's very twisted. And look, as I say, personally, I actually think this proves that Harry isn't under threat from this specific woman. Because trust me, Harry's team will have been all over the officials with this. And if there had have been a serious threat, she would have been removed from that courtroom. And she wasn't. We've had no indication that she was armed whatsoever. To me, this is desperate. What is perhaps more shocking over the weekend, though, is that the king continues to side with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle over Prince William on a couple of issues. And what he's about to do, or at least what he is rumoured to be considering doing, I think is going to cause a lot of people huge concern. So we're going to reveal exactly what's going on.
Meghan appears visibly uncomfortable when someone else occupies the spotlight. Empowerment, it seems, only counts when it's centered on her. The New York Post reporting seals the deal. Roughly 150 empty seats at the start, only partially filled later by waitlisters. Meanwhile, other films at Sundance are turning people away. The most telling detail? The $6,900 badge holders, the buyers, weren't interested. If Netflix wanted this film, Sundance wouldn't be necessary. This fits a wider pattern. Meghan and Harry's documentaries underperform. With Love, Meghan collapses. Other projects fail to chart entirely. The conclusion many are drawing: Netflix is done with their non-fiction content. The audience simply isn't there anymore, beyond a loud but tiny core. People aren't watching out of admiration. They're watching out of morbid curiosity. The Girl Scouts angle collapses under scrutiny. Meghan's own involvement was minimal, yet she's positioned herself as the emotional authority on the subject. When asked specifics, she can't deliver. Because the project isn't about the film. It's about how the film reflects her. That's the recurring flaw in every Sussex project. Industry norms exist for a reason, and Meghan breaks them every time. Speaking first. Centering herself. Ignoring hierarchy. This isn't innovation. It's alienation. Hollywood doesn't reward people who think they're bigger than the system. The sudden resurfacing of a stalker story during Harry's security case raises eyebrows. The facts matter. Public courtroom, airport-level security, no weapon, no removal. If there were a real threat, authorities would have acted. Instead, the story appears strategically timed, seemingly designed to pressure officials rather than reflect genuine danger. Harry and Meghan have cultivated an intensely loyal, sometimes obsessive, fan base. They benefit from it when it suits them. They condemn it when it doesn't. You can't fuel obsession and then act shocked when it follows you. That contradiction is becoming harder to ignore. From empty theaters to strategic leaks, everything about this moment feels strained. This isn't power. It's panic. And desperation is when bad decisions are made, especially in Hollywood. Now I want your honest take. Was this a total Sundance disaster or media bias? Did Meghan hijack the spotlight, or is that unfair criticism? Is Netflix quietly done with Harry and Meghan? And does Harry's security argument still hold any weight? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I read them all. Like this video if you think the cracks are showing. Subscribe for unfiltered, independent royal commentary. Because whether you love them or loathe them, this chapter is unraveling fast.